Okay, the title today is Did God Save Me Recently for a Higher Purpose? But before I get into my talk about the divine universe saving me, maybe they did, uh, I want to mention that when I was a kid, maybe 12 years old, I was very annoyed that my dad, whenever he got in, with his buddies, they would talk about their illnesses. And as I said, that was very annoying to me. Yeah, because at 12 years old, what did I want to hear about prostate problems and cancer and migraine headaches and stuff like that? I didn't want to hear about it. Well, if if hearing about that at all bothers you, click this off and don't bother listening to it because I am going to talk about my almost fatal illness. I Oh, by the way, that is why I have been offline for, maybe 2 or 3 months. You haven't seen any of my videos. Why? Because I went through surgery and was feeling like, well, really bad and almost dead. So that now I'm going to make a big comeback. Could that have been my God's purpose? Well, you decide. In any event, here's the story. I booked on a Costa cruise. It was called All Around Africa. And it was a little different from all the cruises I've been on because previously the cruises would stop in a port. You never had more than 2 sea days. But on this around Africa, I guess they couldn't land in certain more primitive ports or whatever the reason. There was up to 9 days of sea days, they used to call them. That is where you don't land on the port and you have to amuse yourself one way or another. For me, I didn't mind because I enjoyed just going to the restaurants and getting a sunbath and hanging out by the pool. But a lot of cruisers didn't like, they thought that was too boring. Okay, so now I'm on the first week of the cruise. And we're passing Senegal, and I'm having difficulty going pee pee. I stand in front of the toilet. I have to go, but can't. And as the days passed, my stomach got bigger, and it was actually a bit painful. So I go to the ship doctor, who was a very funny Italian guy, told lots of jokes, and he says, "Oh, it looks like you got a prostate problem." Well, prostate to me was, when you lay down on the floor and pray, and your prostate. But anyway, apparently it's a little round ball in your abdomen that your urine passes through, and and also your sperm passes through it, and uh, when that happens, uh, the prostate, its only purpose is to do something mysterious to make you have better babies. Okay, so that's what a prostate is supposed to be for. But apparently, about 80 to 90% of all old men like me get what they call a prostate problem. It either gets big, it swells up, it gets stopped up, or the worst is cancer, the prostate cancer. And unfortunately, that's the most common. Okay, so the doctor said, well, no, let's do a full exam. Well, the ship's doctor doesn't have the equipment of a real first class hospital, so they did an exam, and he said, well, you got some kind of a fungus in your blood, and you've got anemia, and you've got a definite prostate problem, so we have to do what's called a catheter. Oh, catheter. I heard some guy tell me once that a catheter, putting in a catheter, is like putting in a tube that goes all the way into your bladder. Well, a guy told me that was the most painful experience in your life. Well, I won't dwell on that too much, except they put in a catheter and it was the most painful experience of my life. But at least I could pee through the catheter, by the way. Okay, so the doctor said, you got something seriously wrong with you. And so we're going to put you off in a real hospital at the next port. I said, what's that? He said, Ghana. Ghana? You know, I've been to Ghana once 30 years ago, and it is primitive would be a generous way of describing Ghana. So I said, no Ghana, forget Ghana. What's the next port after that? And he said, well, that's Cape Town, South Africa. And I said, well, you know, if you're pretty sure with this catheter in me and peeing and all that, I won't die before we get to South Africa in another 4 days, then I will much prefer going to South Africa. That's a real civilized place that has good doctors and good hospitals. And I vaguely remembered that in South Africa, about 75 years ago, a famous doctor called Christian Barnard performed the first heart transplant in a human. I think they had a cadaver, recently dead guy, and they moved his heart into a guy who was nearly dead, and he survived, and that was the first heart transplant. And then I vaguely remembered that this Cape Town hospital happened to be the most advanced hospital in the whole world for new surgical techniques, certain drugs, and I said to myself, boy, if I could get into that hospital, that'd be really great. Well, to make a long story short, I was in pretty bad shape, and they put me on a stretcher, and an ambulance was called, and I got sent to this, the first hospital that was nearest the port. And guess what? This is where the universe or God's hand comes into it. It was the Christian Barnard Hospital. And it was still, and still is today, one of the most advanced hospitals in the world. So when I got wheeled in there into the emergency room and a surgeon came in, he said, yeah, we've heard from your preliminary that you've got a serious prostate problem. And I'm a surgeon, and for 40 years or 30 years, I've been doing 3 or 4 prostate operations per day. So I've got hundreds of them behind me. Well, wow, was that a relief? Here by accident, during my African trip, I'm dumped in the world's best hospital, arguably, and I get a doctor who's done whatever I need to have done with me many, many times. So probably the best possible thing that could ever happen to me. Okay, once again, to make a long story short, I had the operation, and it took a much longer time than usual for me to recover. Why? Because I had this blood fungus that I forgot what they called it, but it's a rare thing that actually kills people. And, well, strangely enough, in the U.S., people die from it all the time. 60% to 70% of the people who get this, I think it's called amicus fungus, 60% of the people who get it die from it, because in America and in Europe too, there's no known cure. But here in the Christian Barnard Hospital, they had beaten up a special white powder into a certain magical mix. Who the hell knows what they were doing? But they gave that to me intravenously. Okay, so for you guys that are real squeamish like me, I won't go into the detail, but basically they put a little tube in your arm and a little valve, and every day you get a drip of this magical substance. And the guy said it would take about 3 weeks for it to be cured with their secret formula. And sure enough, that's what happened. Okay, now, I had full medical insurance that I took out on the trip. Found it out online. And should I mention the name of the outfit? No, because they'll probably sue me for libel, because boy, were they crooks. Now here is, once again, I'm making a long story short. I could make this a 10-hour video, but what happened was, in my second week of getting this blood fungus treated, a doctor, unannounced, comes from Europe and says, "You're going back with me to Europe today. We got your chartered plane and we're all ready to go." And I said, "Wait a second. Nobody invited you. My present doctor says I'm not fit to fly. And I got one more week at least to go on this blood fungus treatment. You put me on a plane without my daily dose, I'll be dead." He said, "Well, I'm not here to take care of you. I'm here to protect the insurance company." His words weren't exactly that way, but it turns out there's a clause in my insurance contract that says if you're abroad and the doctor is sent from the home office to pick you up and bring you back by what do they call it, medical transport airplane, if you refuse, all your benefits and policy are cut off. Well, so here I am practically on the operating table with my guts on the ground and needles in me and oxygen too. I had the whole works. And they're going to take me off that and put me on a plane so I die. Jesus, what? Sorry, I shouldn't have said it. But anyway, I'm not going to go with him. And I say, "Hey, no." Oh, by the way, I didn't know about that clause in the insurance policy at the time when he says he's taking me. But whether I knew or not, I'm not going to let him put me on a plane to die. And then he shows me his transport order. Not only are they putting me on the plane, but after I get off the plane, my destination is my own apartment. No hospital. And I'm in the middle of treatment, and they're going to put me on a plane to die. And if by some chance I don't die, they're going to dump me in my own apartment. Wow. What an insurance company. Oh, really nice guys. Well, of course, once I leave the hospital, the Christian Barnard Hospital in South Africa, the bill stops. I mean, they don't have to pay any more hospital bills or my magic anti-fungus stuff. So that was the whole reason they sent a doctor to stop the expenses. Boy, they sure didn't care about the patient. Well, I stayed the time necessary for that fungus to be totally cured, and for the I had a big scar on my abdomen and that was leaking a little. That had to stop. And then I had to pay my own way. No hospital, the insurance is supposed to pay your return trip, but no, they didn't in my case. I have to pay my own way. If I was poor, by the way, I couldn't sit in coach, for $200-300 like I would normally travel. I had to go, what do they call it? At least business class, where you can lie flat, and so that was like 3,000 as opposed to 300. So if I was poor and didn't have the cash, well, I don't know what would have happened. But fortunately, not because of my blogging, which earned zero, but fortunately I had enough dough to pay for my ticket, and I recuperated back in my apartment, and everything is okay now. So now you have the reason that I've been offline for so long. I hope to get back with my old subjects. And for now, that's goodbye till another day. So long.